Hi friends, Robin here from Cheese from Scratch, and I'm so excited in this video and in subsequent videos. I'm going to be doing a little series on how to get started cheese making. We're going to be looking at how to choose a recipe. We're going to be looking at ingredients, sourcing the ingredients, and kind of understanding what they are from a very beginner perspective. And we're also going to be looking at how to source your equipment and what you really need to get started making some simple cheeses. So if you have been around on this channel for a while, you know that Cheese from Scratch has all sorts of different information on it. It teaches you how to make all sorts of different cheeses. There's lots of tutorials. It teaches you kind of deep dives into certain things like how to choose a cheese press, those sorts of things. It teaches you all about milk cows. So lots of different things on this channel, but I thought it'd be fun, especially as we kind of approach the end of the year, to really go back to the basics and really teach from the beginning of how to get started making cheese. Because sometimes you can learn too much and it can kind of be overwhelming. And so that's kind of the goal of this video, is just to really bring it right back in, bring it right back to the very basics to just help you get started. Because that is really the biggest hurdle of learning how to make cheese, is starting sometimes. You know, you learn too much and you just can't figure out where to start. So that's what this video series is all about, the bare minimum basics. So in the first video of the series, I want to teach you how to figure out what cheese recipe you are going to make for the beginning. So you have decided that cheese is something that you want to make. Maybe you have a milk cow and you're getting a lot of milk and you want to kind of process that milk into something that can be preserved, into a dairy product that your family can consume and enjoy. Maybe you don't have a dairy cow and you're just kind of interested in learning how to make cheese. Maybe you buy pasteurized milk at the store, or maybe you are part of a raw milk herd share. So wherever you are at, this video is just to kind of help you understand where you should be starting, what recipes you should be looking at, and just my recommendations for if I was a beginner again, what I would say. So most common question I probably get from beginners is, what recipe is a good one to start with? Now, I always recommend that people that are just learning how to make cheese, they practice with some dairy products first. And oftentimes people don't really think of dairy products like making homemade yogurt. They don't really think of that as a cheese, but it really is. Yogurt is a curd mass, and it's a great beginner dairy product to make because it teaches you how to work with milk. It teaches you how to have a curd mass. So that is a really great starter cheese to begin with, or starter dairy product to begin with. Other fresh dairy products are also really good. So if you have been on the channel for a while, you've probably heard me talk about clabber culture. So clabber culture is a raw milk starter culture. You take raw milk, you let it sit on the counter until it coagulates into something called clabber. And then you take a little bit of that clabber and you feed it to new fresh raw milk. And the next day, that raw milk has coagulated into a nice gelatinous clabber. And again, you take a little bit of that clabber and you feed it to new fresh milk, and you keep going with the cycle. It's very similar to how you keep a sourdough starter, but it's kind of harnesses the raw milk bacteria that are present in that milk, and it actually becomes a really good cheese making starter culture. And in the next video that I do of this series, I'm going to talk about how to source ingredients, and that's going to be one of the things that we're talking about. We're going to be talking about how to purchase starter culture for cheese making, but also how to make it yourself at home using this clabber culture. Now, despite the fact that this clabber culture is a really good cheese making starter culture, it's also a really amazing dairy product. And so, as I said, you're taking a little bit and you're feeding it to new fresh raw milk every day. And what you're left with is basically a discard. And I actually have my discard from today's feeding today. So after I milked this morning, I took my fresh, nice warm milk and I put it into a pot and I fed it a bunch of clabber culture. So usually the ratio that you go is about a quarter cup of clabber per gallon of milk. So I did a 2-gallon batch. So I put half a cup, there we go, half a cup of clabber into that milk this morning. And so why I fed an entire pot of milk clabber was that I'm actually planning on making that into cream cheese. So clabber is a really good product all on its own. You can eat it just how it is like this. It tastes nice and mild if you've been feeding it every day. It tastes very similar to kind of yogurt, but not as tangy. I often like strain it a little bit into like sort of like a Greek yogurt and feed it to my kids, and they can't tell the difference between that and regular yogurt. So that's kind of a cool thing about it. You can also strain it a little bit further. And so that's what I'm planning on doing with my batch of clabber from today. I'm going to take that milk, I'm going to strain it for 12 hours once it coagulates, and it's going to become like a nice thick cream cheese that I can use for baking, that I can use for smearing onto bagels, like anything like that. You can also take that big pot of clabber and you can cook it on the stove and turn it into cream cheese. So it really is kind of this gateway product into being able to make all sorts of things. And the other cheeses that I make, so I make lots of fancier cheeses like cheddars and Colbys and bries. I'm using clabber as a basis for that. I'm using clabber as a starter culture for that. So if you learn how to keep a clabber culture, it really propels you into being able to make all sorts of other cheeses. So that is one spot. If you have a raw milk access, I totally recommend that you start by learning how to keep a clabber culture, learning how to make that clabber into cream cheese, and from there you can go on and kind of expand and learn a little bit more. So once you've picked a fresh dairy product to make, whether it's yogurt or clabber, kefir is a great one as well. Practice with that for a little while, get comfortable with it. And once you have really kind of got comfortable with it, start taking it the next step further. Start straining it off into cream cheese. Start cooking it on the stove and making it into cottage cheese. And I've got a cottage cheese method video below that I will link for you guys to check out. So that's a great place to start. Those are some fresh cheeses that you can go on and make for your family. Once you're ready to dive into an aged cheese, the aged cheese that I recommend that you go to first is feta. So feta is a great cheese because you can age it in your regular refrigerator. It doesn't take too much fancy equipment or anything. You don't have to learn how to press cheese, because often learning how to press cheese is sort of something that hangs people up when they're first beginning. So it's best if you can just kind of remove that skill that you have to learn right off the bat and just go into making feta. So I have a feta recipe. I have a feta tutorial. I'll link all of that below so you guys can check that out. But those are really places that I recommend that you start when you're first learning how to make cheese. After you have that fresh cheese under your belt, that feta under your belt, you can go on and pick any cheese making recipe that you want. If you've practiced with those two kind of things right off the bat, the next thing is just to pick a cheese that your family loves and learn how to make it, and make it over and over and over and over again. And that's going to help you get really good at making that cheese. Try not to overwhelm yourself by making a whole bunch of different cheeses. But if you start with those two kind of foundational skills of that fresh cheese and then the feta, that's really going to help you to just feel less overwhelmed. So thank you guys for watching this video. The next week's video is going to be how to source your ingredients, what ingredients you need to make basic cheeses. So we're going to be looking at that in next Monday's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you haven't already, click subscribe down below, sign up to my newsletter, because I send a newsletter out every Monday telling you what my new YouTube video for that week is. Thank you guys for watching this video, and we'll see you next week.